So, I guess I could say a bit of a disclaimer that most of this, because I'm really kind of like the first to, well, this is my, well, overall, it's just going to be a kind of a mess of a video. It's kind of actually be jumbled up and whatnot. But I felt as though I should really make it, considering it's something that's really something dear to me, as well as something that has actually helped me out as far as life and perspective on things, and considering it has been a real long time coming, a really long time coming. But for the most part, to keep things clean, I'm gonna like go off of a script that I made and something that I really put some heart into, that kind of just goes over what I guess my experiences with it has been. So if there's any like cuts or any weird oddities in the audio department, well, it's only because I wanted it. So it's not sounding too, I don't know, piss poor, I should say. But sorry for if there's any background noises that end up coming about during the video, but it really can't be helped. But I guess I'll start with the video then. Hello, all of YouTube. As you may know, as of May 6th, 2021, we've lost a man of great wisdom, art, storytelling, and many more the likes of it. First and foremost, I would have definitely loved to thank this man for all the work and effort put into his Berserk series, and just knowing that is no longer possible is something that hurts me more than accepting it probably wouldn't have been possible to begin with. Now, for me, my first introduction to the series was way back at around, I believe, 2011, maybe 2012. My memory's kind of messed up when it comes down to it those days. But with my naivety, as well as my lack of maturity, or even a lack of drive for anything back then, high school, my mental sanity, or should really say insanity, waking up every day, stress, constant existential crisis over and over again. Well, I should somewhat, before I get sidetracked, kind of like get to the point. But my first encounter with the Berserk series was, it was some Watch Mojo video. It had to be a top 10. It was going to be a top 10, and I it was either something about the darkest endings in the anime, or maybe like a top 10 worst CGI sequences, because around the time everybody hated CGI, and it was really looked down upon. And it, to be honest, as far as the whole golden age arc movies go, the CGI at the ending was pretty golden. Not, no pun intended. But little nihilistic me back then just brushed it off as trash solely on that last scene. Mind you, I technically got spoiled, but because of my lack of interest and because of a dumb reasoning, I kind of wasn't, I guess I should say. But go figure. So time had passed. I had graduated high school in 2014. Did about 2 weeks in community college. It wasn't really too much of the college aspect, but me and my mental state was just really bad. So yeah, it wasn't. It also wasn't good, considering that I jumped into college straight after high school. So that's like a good 2 months difference, I guess you could say. Um, so honestly, around that time, I was just either waiting to roll over and die, or just my father just kicking me out and then just being on the streets homeless, or what recently ReZero season 2 episode 4 taught me is I just wanted somebody important in my life to set me straight, tell me how shitty of a person I was or how much of a parasite I was for leeching off of, people who were supposed to be like a mentorship into my life, but I never really had such and whatnot. But besides all that, it was 2015 where I guess I kind of had a little bit of a taste of Berserk, not to the fullest extent, but in the sense of like a summed up version of what the current Berserk was in. But I still wasn't too interested in it, so I kind of didn't like one, I kind of wasn't really spoiled to it. Yeah, I had more information on it, but I didn't really look into it. But it was the 2015 death battle of Guts versus Nightmare from Soul Calibur, which was a pretty good fight for its time, and given the whole sprite animation and whatnot, it was a good video. You know, the fight was kind of like short, but it around the time, at least then, it had a lot of qualities and whatnot. It was unique. So after 2015 ended, we come back into 2016. I joined the army, and which I'm currently still in, sadly to say, but it is what it is. But besides that, it was 2016, and as blasphemous as it may sound,
Hold up. Wait a minute.
before anybody assumes, oh, I got into Berserk because of the 2016 series. No, that's not the case. Me being my whole anime belief of, hey, watch every anime based off its release date, because that's the best way to go into it. If the stories are jumbled, that's even better. I don't know, something Kingdom Hearts related has really kind of touched me in that way, that I kind of like stories being jumbled where you can figure it out in puzzle pieces and whatnot. But I I guess I could say, thanks to the service of Kiss Anime, let that site, always be a piece of history and whatnot. I was able to watch I don't remember which year, but I know it was the 1990s series of Berserk and whatnot. And I binge watched all of that and fell in love with the series. It was a series that had me wanting more. And because the way I kind of like viewed animes based off of releases and whatnot, I thought, hey, I should watch the three movies, the Golden Age arc. I did not know that the first, the Golden Age arc itself was literally all that was for the 90s anime. So me watching all three movies, I mean, eventually I came to the conclusion that, hey, I'm just watching recaps, but the animation looks good. You have some new scenes, new content, and like the main only new content that I can really remember that was really story heavy was Skull Knight, how Guts and Casca hit it off, and as well as the ending that should have been the beginning of where 2016 led with and whatnot. But, because 2016 was pretty rushed, as well as not following the story as far as the whole Lost Children's arc, it, it, they did what they could. For me, as much as it wasn't perfect, both the 2016 and 17 versions, it had a lot of callbacks from the manga. And sure, obviously, the manga did it better, because when it comes down to it, Berserk as an art, and they, it's more demanding when it comes down to it. And the manga most definitely made those demands. And frankly, the 2016 and 17 versions definitely had a lot of love and care given into it. Yeah, sure, they had a bad rep, but it's not like the people behind it didn't care, because they clearly did. They struggled to make it, and that's something to appreciate from it nonetheless. So, come 2018, and as much as I wanted another adaptation, because I I really didn't care too much that it had CGI around that time. It's more Berserk. I could not care less. I loved the dark fantasy, and considering how left off was with the cliffhanger, I wanted more. But given how different it was from the manga, I can really see why it could not continue on. But, it's like they say, animes are really just advertisements for the manga. So, um, and I'm fine with that, especially now. So, being in a false hope for a new season, I go to YouTube. There's multiple videos. I know you had one from Nux Taku, the most human, overpowered main character guts from Berserk, and Chibi reviews that kind of like boosted me to want to read the manga, which was his video of after 21 years of Berserk, it finally happened. And I watched that whole video, and I watched other people's videos about it. Like you have people of Boofire 191, Alex Enterprises, Spired, and the Masked Man, Real Life Ryan, and many more people who covered all of Berserk because it's one of those anime and manga series that nobody really talks about. Yes, you can mention it whenever it's a topic of, hey, what's the darkest, what's the goriest anime, blah, blah, blah. And, you have a whole bunch of edgy people saying, yo, it's Berserk because, there's blood and guts, just like the song Blood and Guts. And it's really more than that, you know? It's definitely way more than that. And after all those videos, it just raised my passion even more to get into the manga, especially with everybody losing their minds of the fact that Casca was back and whatnot. So I started it from chapter 1 all the way up until what we have left from Kintaro now. And reading that, just reading it as a form of media and entertainment really changed me in a sense of how I look at stuff. The morals, the lessons that it tells, like the up and coming stories, like the whole manga of Berserk. It feels like it's as if you could call it like an allegory of growing up. It's dark, it's scary, it's tough. You can always end up thinking, if I'm doing something, why am I doing this? Is it something that I really want to do? Most of us in life, you have like, I guess, 800 billion humans on this planet. And a good portion of them, a good portion of us just pass. And it's usually off of something that we never really wanted to do in life, or something that we just ultimately ended up just accepting. So for a form of media like Berserk to really hit home of like storytelling of that sort, as well as something that feels so realistic but tells it in a tale of fantasy, it's really something. Something that most animes and mangas usually do, but just how Berserk handled it was just something of wisdom. You know, it's for me, Berserk was something that helped me in life. How I see it, the light at the end of the tunnel that isn't just, hey, this is death's door. Something that at the end of the light is a new path, something to go forward to, something to strive for, something that gives you care for oneself. That it's not in a matter of, hey, I'm just going to care for me and only me. Granted, it does have that storytelling where you can have that type of mentality at first, but the more you get to know people, have different relationships, friendships, like any sort of camaraderie with others, like it becomes more than just you. And you ultimately understand that. You know that you can't do everything by yourself. Sometimes you need people's help. Sometimes you just need others. It doesn't even have to be about help. It just feels good to be with someone or to have somebody there. For me, Berserk, especially around the time where I came off of active duty and whatnot and became part of the National Guard, it's like, it's just me and my girlfriend just living together. And it, it it's very different given the whole, hey, active duty, you're miles apart from each other, faithfully so. And, it's one of the things I definitely never took granted for. And Berserk helped me in my relationship, which is very strange. I guess you would think of Berserk of just like I said, blood and guts and whatnot. But for me, I most definitely feel it is more than that. Where you have Guts and Casca's relationship, where it's like, the scene when Guts has to basically look after Casca, make sure she does not fall ill to her sickness, because women, at the end of the day, Casca was still a female. She had her female bodily issues. And the scene of Guts just noticing the blood and he's freaking out, and then he discovers where it came from, and it's like, oh, right, she's a woman. No matter how tomboyish a female can be, no matter how much of a female could be, oh, she's one of the guys. No, female's still gonna be a female, you know? And it's weird that Berserk kind of like helped me see that. It kind of gave me that relief of, maybe I can show my emotions. Maybe I can open up to people. And frankly, Guts as a character, I found that really relatable. I don't really like people touching me, not because I went through a traumatic experience as he does. I'm glad I haven't, but in a sense where feeling uncomfortable and feeling like you need to push people away just so you can feel in that same I don't want to call it melancholy, but that same feeling that's back to what you consider normal. And it's lessons like that it's not a direct lesson, but it's something that you can look into after every episode ends. You find something new about what was just being told, whether it be from the manga panels or from the animated series, whether it's in 2D or 3D CGI. You learn something. You learn grief, loss, love, friendships. It's it is definitely a tale for its time, and I'm as sad as I am that it will never get finished. I can't even really think about it in that sense, you know? Like, Miura is gone now, and I can only want the best in a mourning sense for his families and his loved ones, his friends, and whoever he had close acquaintances with. Because at the end of the day, Miura was human, just like all of us. And it's sad to say that he's gone, more than saying, oh, I'm more sad that the series won't ever continue. That would be something selfish to say. It's always more sad when the author, the writer themselves can't finish their creativity, because creativity is the one thing that can have us think outside the box, have us just think. And it doesn't even and most of the time, if it's creative, it's not going to be negative. It's going to be something of positive. Even if you are telling a story that is negative, there's going to be little hints, symbolisms within it. And just knowing that that's gone from this one man who, yeah, sure, he had his team and whatnot, but at the at the end of it all, he was like the pedestal, the pedestal to stand on. He was this he was the sword to Guts. And I don't know what I mean by that fully, but it's like, I don't know. It's I don't know. And I'm confusing myself, but like overall, I just want to say thank you, Kentaro Miura, for everything. Thank you for making a masterpiece, a form of media that not only entertains but teaches, whether in hidden meanings or symbolisms or the hard, blunt truth for generations of history to come. You truly are one of a kind, and I can only hope you may rest in ease in an afterlife of your fitting. Thank you for everything.